Welcome back to the Football Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Queen. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening on a podcast app, please subscribe to the podcast. Let's keep it up. Well, week 4 of the NFL 2022 season had a lot of exciting moments. Comebacks, horrible weather that influenced the outcome of games. But I want to recap a few games from Sunday that intrigued me. I thought was very interesting. So the first team I want to talk about will be the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks had to play Detroit on Sunday. They ended up winning 48-45. It was a high-scoring affair. And can I say the Seahawks are a very competitive team? Now, the Seahawks are in this phase to where they're playing their quarterback who's been backup his whole career and always lived in the shadows of another star. But now, starting in 2022, he has an opportunity to become the face of the franchise, so to speak. I alluded to this in my first episode of the season that I don't believe the Seahawks are in a win mode now, but they could have fooled me because it looks like they're trying to win games. Now, Geno Smith had another game where he completed over 70% of his passes, which he has 4 games in a row where he's completed over 70% of his passes. He leads the league in completion percentage. Yes, I said that. Geno Smith leads the league in completion percentage through 4 games. He ended up throwing for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, had over 100 passer rating, and he put up 48 points on offense. He didn't do it all by himself. He had the help of DK Metcalf, who went for over 100 yards. Rashad Penny, the running back, went for $150 and 2 tubs. But each time the Lions try to climb back into the game, there'd be another big play by Geno, another big play by Rashad Penny. This team has been very competitive this season and has shocked me. Now, the second team I want to talk about is the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are coming off a loss against the Miami Dolphins, in which they felt like they should have won the game, and they're going into a battle against one of the MVP favorites in Lamar Jackson. This was a playoff game battle, in my opinion. The Ravens and the Bills were going back and forth in terms of defensive stops, crucial field goals to try to seize the momentum in the game, and it ultimately came down to a decision, which I didn't agree with, but we are living in an era where NFL coaches are very aggressive. And being aggressive sometimes bites you in the butt. And I've seen it a lot of times this season of coaches not taking the field goal, trying to go for on a 4th down to try to get a touchdown, and they're not working, and then end up losing by the amount of points you could have gained or the amount of points you neglected to get off of field goals. Now, the score is 20-20. Ravens on 4th and goal. Lamar Jackson drops back, and there's a wide open Devin Duvernay that he sees way too late, and the ball end up getting intercepted. And then the Buffalo Bills get the ball, drives it down the field, and kick a game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock. Kudos to the Bills. The Bills at one point in the game trailed 17-3, and they were able to come back in the game to win it. That just goes to show you what type of mentality they have, the Buffalo Bills, and they stopped a trend that started last season to where they couldn't win close ball games. At the time, I believe they were 0-8 or 0-7 in close ball games. So kudos to the Buffalo Bills. You got the job done. You're 3-1, and on to week 5. The last team I want to cover that had an interesting game, in my opinion, was the Saints. Now, the Saints played in London in the AM, and I felt like the Saints needed to have a great defensive effort for them to win that game, and they did not. The Saints ended up losing. It was 28-25. It was a very competitive game. Kirk Cousins gave the ball away, scored a lot of touchdowns, but it was all the Andy Dalton show. Now, Jameis Winston was unable to address for the game, so they had to put in the right rifle to get the job done. And I thought he played a really good game. He had one bad play, was a fumble that it was an awareness fumble. But besides that, I thought he played a really good game, ended up throwing for 2 touchdown passes, and even drove the team down for a potential game-time field goal to go to overtime. But Will Lutz tried to kick a 61-yard field goal, and it had a double doink, and that's all she wrote. So now the Saints are 1-3, and it feels like their season's over. I'm not saying it's over. Anything can happen in the 2022 NFL season, but once you drop down to 1-3, it's very hard to climb out of it and be a playoff team. All right, so now it's time for upset of the week from week 4. So my upset of the week will have to go to the New York Jets over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Zach Wilson, the starting quarterback for the New York Jets, has not played a snap all season, and this was his first appearance in the 2022 NFL season. So, with that being said, he didn't have the most glorious numbers, but he made the plays when they needed to make the plays. Their defense ended up getting 4 interceptions. Yes, you heard me. 4. So, those 4 interceptions kept them in the game. They were able to capitalize off of a few of those turnovers and get the job done. On defense, they had 3 sacks also. And when it mattered the most, when it was time to drive down the field to get the go-ahead touchdown, Zach Wilson drove down the field for the go-ahead touchdown, and Breece Hall punched it in to the end zone for them to get the 24-20 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Jets are my upset of the week in week 4. All right, now it's time for best and worst performances from week 4. The best performance, in my opinion, goes to Cooper Rush, the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Cooper Rush was thrust into the starting lineup due to Dak Prescott having a thumb injury, and he's currently rehabbing from it. So, Cooper Rush, since becoming a starter, is only 3-0 in this season. This week and during week 4, he had to play the Commanders, and he put on a show. And it's not like he lit up the stat sheet or anything like that, but he was efficient. And sometimes that's all it takes for you to win a football game. Now, the Dallas Cowboys have a really good defense, and their defense has been the driving force since Dak Prescott has been injured. But Cooper Rush has managed to score in opportune times so they could be able to get the victory. Now, Cooper Rush had 2 touchdowns against the Commanders, no interceptions, over 200 yards in the game, and had over 100 passer rating. Now, Cooper Rush, we don't know how long he'll be the starting quarterback for the season, but so far he has elevated this Cowboys team, keep them afloat, and now they sit at 3-1 going into week 5. Now, the worst performance from week 4, and I hate to do this, but it goes to Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence came into Philly, a hot team, and I know the weather wasn't the best. It looked like they was playing through a tropical storm. But he had too many careless mistakes in the game that cost their team a chance to winning. So they take an early lead, 14-0 over the undefeated Eagles, and we're driving down the field, and he fumbles. And it's not like he was hit fumble. It's just the ball fell out his hand or he rolled out to the right. So that first fumble happened, and they scored a touchdown off of it. So you get the ball back. It's 3rd and 1, and they try to do a QB sneak. He fumbles again. That's the second lost fumble of the game, and they end up scoring a touchdown for that. So now the game is tied 14-14 because Trevor Lawrence decided to have 2 fumbles. Now you go into the second half, he fumbles again. Drop back in the pocket, fumbles the ball, they end up scoring a touchdown. And then it goes towards the end of the game. Defense gets a stop, scores 21-29, 1 minute and 50 seconds left on the clock, and first drop back on that drive, he fumbles, ball game. No timeouts left for the Jaguars to use, try to get the ball back. And also, in total, Trevor Lawrence turnovers that day gave the Eagles 24 points. So the Eagles scored 24 points off the 5 turnovers that Trevor Lawrence had. And it's just unacceptable. It's one of those things to where, like, you are a young quarterback, but you can't make the same mistake over and over again. You have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to play better. I understand the weather wasn't ideal, but great quarterbacks play in horrible weather conditions. Great quarterbacks play in horrible conditions and still get the job done. So, Trevor Lawrence, as a fan of the Jacksonville Jaguars, do better. Bounce back next week. You get the Texans. Go get the job done. Thanks for watching and listening to the Football Corner podcast. Podcast episodes will be dropped on Mondays and Fridays, as well as YouTube videos on Mondays and Fridays. You could click the link in my description in order to follow the social media links to my podcast social media pages. And also, you'll be able to stay up to date on new drops, new takes, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. See you next time.